Now, one of the hardest things for a human being to do in this world is keep the faith. 10 years ago, a good friend of mine, I met him as a random person. I walked into his place of business. I never knew this man at the time. And later we became very good friends. But in this moment I stepped into his place of business, I was just talking to him. And he said to me, come here a minute, let me speak to you a minute. I was walking around his stores looking at random stuff. And he told me to come and talk to him for a second. And I sat with him. He said to me, you look different. What's going on? This is exactly how you approached me. I said, man, brother, man, I don't know where to start. So much things are going on right now. I said, what do you do? I said, well, I'm a DJ, recording artist, I'm a writer. And he's like, oh, you write books. So he's like, where's your book? And luckily, I actually had a copy of my book in my back pocket, literally. And I pulled this and I said, here. And he looked at my book. He said, come here. And he sat with me. And he said to me, if you wrote this book, do you know how far it'll go in life? I said, man, right now, that's the thing. I'm trying to get it to another level. But he said to me, brother, you got to learn to keep the faith. And I said, yeah, I know. He said, no, you don't. So you got to learn to keep the faith. He's like, yeah, I know. He's like, no, you got to learn to keep the faith. He said it to me 3 times. I got to learn to keep the faith. And on the 3rd time, I said, brother, if you only know what I'm going through right now, I'm doing my best. And his exact words was to me that when I mail a letter, am I concerned when it's going to reach that person? So yeah, sometimes, but it depends on where I'm mailing it. He said, no. Are you concerned when that person's going to receive that letter? I said, no, not really. He said, okay. He said that when you ask God for something, he sends it to you right when you ask him for it. But the only way you're going to ever receive that letter, that blessing, the only way you can ever receive it is by keeping the faith. The minute you step off of keeping the faith, the minute you start going into doubt, the minute you start feeling weary, the minute you start saying, I can't be, is when you lose that blessing. That advice stuck in my brain for 10 years. And since that day I met that man, we developed a bond and a friendship. And I turned around and I created the book, the film, the soundtrack. Next week, February 19th, it's 10 years since I released my debut release, 7 issues EP, The Ultimate Game Changer. And starting February 19th, 2026, I'm beginning the 7 issues rollout.